without further ado, we'll welcome Eric Jarvis to the show. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Ed. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here, man. Talk to us a little bit about FreeRealTime. Obviously, you're a pretty significant entrepreneur there, to put it lightly, but give us some background on that and where you want to take it going forward.
Yeah, well, I took over in May running FreeRealTime, and the business had been around for some time, and we see some opportunity to make it even better. So we're working on that. We have FreeRealTime is basically a resource site for investors. It's got a very broad array of tools and data and news and even trading on there. You can get historical price data. You can download that. You can get real-time price data up to the millisecond news coverage from our partners at Newsware,
Wow.
who were on the show yesterday. Actually.
Exactly.
And charting, screening, quantitative analysis, portfolio management, social media analytic tool, kind of the first of its kind. That's some new stuff we're excited about. And options data and analysis, education. We kind of have it all. It's kind of a one-stop shop for investors.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. Now, typically, I come from the investment world myself, but typically you don't necessarily see people being all that creative when it comes to this sort of thing. How do you bridge being in the music business to going into this type of business?
So there's a giant emotional and not physical, but the virtual Chinese wall between those businesses.
This is true.
I started out with my current partner. I used to be a programmer. I'm a recovering technologist, and I used to be a database programmer in the 90s at a company called Telescan, which was a stock market data company. And Scott Brown of Brown Box Financial Services, and I had worked there together. He ran the company, and I was kind of stayed in that business in stock market, and did a brief stint at TradeCast when it was acquired by TD Ameritrade.
Right.
And around 2003, I just kind of launched a separate business, music production company. I'd kind of been doing music my whole life, and so since 2003, I've had a separate business going on here. I'm in Houston, Texas, and so I've got a studio and that kind of stuff, but. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, Scott and I started working together again on some unit investment trust products, and we started kicking the idea around about starting a new thing, and so we did, and we ended up with Brown Box Financial Services, and we wanted to put together kind of a complementary suite of products, or a suite of complementary products and services for investors. So we started putting together FreeRealTime and Newsware and some other things that we thought were, best in breed stuff to put together in one place for investors to access through a portal.
Well, Eric, we know that there's no one out there providing that information at all. Obviously, there's no competition for you out there. So I guess the question would be, since there is no competition and you look to corner that particular market, how does your secret sauce work to bring investors to your site and get them more informed with regard to what their position should be and how they move in the market?
Well, I think the array of tools is, you kind of have everything you need for someone who's an active trader. We are unique in the offering that we have. Like I said, we've kind of selected best of breed services and products to put together. So I think aggregating everything in one place is a big advantage, and the quality of those individual services stands alone is great. And then as part of the complementary or a comprehensive suite, it's just an advantage that can service anybody from an individual self-directed to institutional. It's a really valuable set of tools. I think the key things are to having a destination site like ours for anybody who follows the market is to have the best site that you can, and we're rolling out a new site before the end of this year. The current site is super useful, but it's been kind of the same for probably 15 years or more. So the new site will have, the current site already has anything from the aforementioned stuff to level 2 streaming quotes.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything from free. I mean, there's plenty of people who use the month. It's about 20,000 users per month at any given time across the month.
What about tutorials? You mentioned level 2. A lot of people don't understand what level 2 is, and obviously, as a former trader myself, we use level 2 and level 3 all the time to give us a better look at the market itself. Do you expect to provide some, I don't know, maybe some podcast or maybe some short videos explaining some of the things that the site will do as far as educating those investors with those new ideas?
Yeah, we have. We've done a couple of training. We just started these recently, but we have an analysis and trading platform that's kind of a separate subscription on the site. And there are tutorials. We've done some webinars on there for everything from options to level 2 quotes to charting analysis. It's kind of all there. We hope to train people that way. Seems to be pretty effective. It's involved, so it kind of, you find the more active traders leaning towards that stuff.
I would think so.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one thing about me is I tend to go off the reservation a little bit. And one thing that's interesting about your background, I think may serve you well, and I kind of like to kind of respond to it. But being a database architect and looking at essentially what amounts to a real-time database system, aggregating information from a variety of different fronts, do you see your experience as an architect helping you put this site together and make it more efficient?
Yeah, for sure. So to be clear, I'm not the technologist on the site. We have a really talented guy up in Canada, and that the real brain power on that end is there. But it definitely helps me. In this business, milliseconds matter, and so in assessing services like Newsware and FreeRealTime, that's obviously one of the things we look at is, are we, can we get the fastest? Can we be the fastest and make it available to people? So, as I was saying, we have anything from, sort of the free users who can use the site anonymously once they register. They don't have to log in every time, but we go all the way up to $69.95 a month for what we call our gold streaming service. So,
but step into that a minute. What does that gold streaming service offer the client going forward? At what level does it take them information-wise to the next level as to where you want to take them?
Well, so that when you subscribe to that, you actually look at the regular site is the service that you use for the other plans. But once you get up into streaming, you get kind of a standalone, what I call an adjunct app. It runs a Java app on your computer. So you basically have a regular trader's quotes console there. So you can do charting, analysis, and real-time quotes as opposed to what the other people get.
Well, we have about a minute or so left here. Before we go out, talk to me about what it's like to be a vice president and governor of the Grammys. I mean, how does that come together? I mean, that's an amazing combination of things. How do you do that?
Well, it's serving on boards is one of the most educational things that I've done, and so I was an elected official for about 8 years. Started out as a governor, then I became a vice president, and then a president, and then a trustee, which is kind of a senator, like a national position for the Recording Academy, which is the Grammys, and really, it's just another forum in which you get with a lot of brain power in one room several times a year. And that's been, for me, it's just all part of the kind of a lifelong learning process. And working through problems, working through how to communicate, how to, govern a body. And so that certainly comes into play when you're running a company. And I think my background in market data and day trading and trading, combined with a lot of the acumen that you develop in the other forum, has been useful for me. It's all sort of process, and so if you go back to your earlier question, database design and logical architecture and stuff like that is all part of the same sort of learning process that you get to be able to effectively run things.
I would think so. Well, Eric, we're out of time. I thank you for joining us. I appreciate that you've brought that product to us and gave us a chance to look at it. Where can people go to get to FreeRealTime? You have a website you want to give them?
Yeah, it's just FreeRealTime.com. And if you keep checking back, you'll see that we're going to bring back Microsoft Money's Stock Scouter product, which has orphaned a lot of users. So that and Newsware and our social media SmackD product will be up there through Hash.
I look forward to that one myself. Got to cut you off there, Eric. I appreciate you joining us. We'll send people to FreeRealTime.com. This segment of the show is brought to you by Infuse, the notifies CRM, the product of the future. We'll be right back with the private equity moment in just a minute.